Yes, I will just give a very short presentation about what is EFI. EFI is an international body that was set up 5 years ago at European level. All the countries agreed to set up an institute coordinating research activity at European level and able to provide advice to policymakers. And my unit is a small piece of this big institute dealing with Atlantic regions and focusing more on planted forest. And in the frame of this EFI Atlantic Regional Office, we are making a lot of projects and events and coordinating a couple of publications focusing on main issues related to planted forest in European area. And so one of these projects is the Rainforest project. So I will try up. So I will try to give you an overview of the Rainforest project. This is an acronym for a long title saying basically resource infrastructure for forest adaptation monitoring in European Atlantic regions. So when we started the project, I think it was really the beginning of climate change awareness in forestry. I mean, scientists know that climate change is an issue for decades, but forest owners just learned that a couple of years ago. And the problem we have is now that all the managers are aware of this climate change, they come to us asking us more about what to do. And in fact, the trouble we have is that we are facing too many uncertainties. For example, we don't know the trade-off effects because in some points, carbon for example, carbon increase can be benefit, but also the reduction of water can be a problem. And models are not precise enough to tell us at regional level what will happen. We have also the matter of speed evolution. We don't know how fast it will be. Do we have time to make one rotation as we did before, or do we have to switch now for new silviculture? We have also some regional issues like Gulf Stream. If the Gulf Stream stay or not, the climate will be totally different and it can switch in a decade. Also, there are some economic models like what will be the energy market next year and what will be the role of forestry in that. And this is related also to climate, but much more to policy and people behavior, society behavior. And at the end of that, we have also some ecological issues that are not so clear. What happens with pests and diseases? We have observed already in Canada a suite of local diseases that has become a real problem, and that was not before. That something like that can happen with us. And also now we may have to change the paradigm. Before we were looking for the optimum species in the optimum site. Perhaps now we have to find the more plastic species, the one that will resist to the whole range of climate which we'll have during the whole rotation in the next 40 years. And perhaps if it doesn't grow fast 1 year, it's not so grave if we are able to bring it to the end of the rotation without dying. So we have listed a couple of potential threats like a new pest, increased risk of outbreaks, increased frequency of biotic hazards such as strong winds, drought, misadaptation of local tree species due to lack genetic diversity, or temporal mismatch between the speed of climate change and the rapidity of local adaptation process when we are making natural regeneration. And so the question was what kind of infrastructure we can set up to bring accurate data on all these changes. And in fact, we realize that the existing stands are always adapted to local conditions and not always reveal the total plasticity of a species, but we just give information of the adaptation of the provenance to the site. And what we wanted to do is to have a real idea of the species plasticity, not only of one provenance in one site, but to have to provide a broader picture of that. So the first infrastructure we set up in the frame of the Rainforest project is to set up a network of arboretum. So the main aim of this network is to expose the same genetic material produced in the same conditions, same nursery, to various climate, soil context. So we have about 30. So now the number is changing. We have 38 arboretum now. Each arboretum is about 2 hectares and is made of 2,000 trees. Initially, we wanted to test 20 species, but when we made the screening, finally we agreed to test 30 species. And as we don't want to test only one provenance, but to have an idea of the plasticity of the species, we needed at least 3 provenance for each species. So it means that we have about 36 trees for the 30 species in all the sites, exactly the same genetic material. And also, as people were interested more in some of the regions by some of the species, we have some site-specific provenances. We also have a system to assess the site heterogeneity, having some blocks for some of the species to see if there is if we are really having an homogeneous site or an heterogeneous site. And the commitment is that we will follow this infrastructure for at least 15 years, and we have weather station to monitor the precise weather on the site, because we want to intercept local events like frost or rainfalls. So at the moment where we are, most of the seedlings are under production. We have about 120,000 seedlings under production, and they will be planted in November this year. Just here to give you the range of distribution of the site. So there is one here at the top north in Scotland. Then we have plenty of them on this Atlantic coast, and the more south is here in Lisbon region. So we have a very large climatic range, and we also have 3 sites now in Azores. That is very interesting because it is very oceanic climate, and so we will have through this infrastructure all ranges of dryness and mean temperature and extreme temperature, because some of them are in Mediterranean areas, some of them are almost in Nordic zone, some of them are more continental, and so we will have a good picture of the plasticity of the species. So here is a list of species. As you can see, we have Pinus teda, Pinus sylvestris, Pinus pinastia, Pinus pinea, but not not your pine here, because it's basically for sanitary issue. We have quite a lot of problems with health issue in radiata pine in Europe, and it is very complicated for us to spread it over Europe. We have about 50% of the species that are oceanic species, 1/3 that is more for dry places, 1/3 that is more for wet places, and all these species were selected for having a commercial interest. Even if it is not timber, there is always something to sell from these species. The second part of the infrastructure is a network of demonstration sites. We have about 33 demonstration sites that will be set up to demonstrate the efficiency of mitigation measures. We want to test on the field some adaptive management. So we will monitor the weather, and we will select exposed sites, and on this site we will have one control with business as usual forest management, and one control and one stand with an adaptive management. So what can be an adaptive management? It can be, for example, change in site preparation to increase stability. It can be change in density management to reduce competition for water. It can be species composition also that is switched to anticipate, to introduce a species more adapted to new climatic conditions. It can be aid management for wind issue. It can be also stand structure or species composition, trying to favorize species that are less demanding in water. We have also a very interesting trial that will be on soil organic matter enrichment with biochar, because if we increase the water capacity in southern area, we may have a better resilience to drought. And also industrial management to avoid competition with for water. And all this infrastructure to be beneficial for the network, all the partners commit in sharing the data they will produce. So we have the same protocols. We selected all together the species, so we had a selection process for the species. We made a state-of-the-art on the knowledge in all the region, climate change adaptation. And we are setting up a database, or many databases, to share the data. So we made one already to share the data we accumulated in the past, trying to gather from the 10 organizations all the trials that have been done before, because we wanted to select the species for the arboretum that way. But finally we made the selection by the bibliography, because it takes a long time for the partners to bring together this information. But now it is working more or less, and we can see, for example, if we have some Pinus radiata trials, when they were planted, which organization is managing that, and if the organization wants, it can also provide some dendrometric data like growth rate, age. And for example, now what we are working on more is, what is really demanding is to define, for example, the location where we have the adaptation to the site. So we are trying to set up an index called adaptation to the site that will help us to map at European level where the species are adapted or not. And so it's quite tricky, because it has to be a mix of growth, of health, and so on. So that's all for me at the moment. I hope I have many other things to say, but I think I've already used all my time.